Welcome to InterPartyConflict, the podcast where we answer your questions so you can have the best tabletop gaming experience possible. My name is Gabe.
And my name is Jeff.
And we're going to answer your questions today. But first, I have a question.
Yeah?
Jeff, how are you doing today?
Me?
You.
Oh.
Wait, no, sorry. The other Jeff sitting behind you. Hey, J-Dog.
Good old J-Dog.
Yep.
I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
Doing pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
How's the weather treating you?
Oh my goodness, it's awful. It's been
We're in the Midwest.
Yeah.
And
I can't complain because it's the middle, close to the end of January when we record this. And
this is like the first real
this is the first real cold day we've had. Like there's been like 1 or 2 days where I've gotten out of work at 3 a.m. and it's been a little icy, but
it was negative like 7 or 8 degrees last night.
It's been pretty awful the last couple days.
Yeah. That's Fahrenheit for all you folks at home.
Sure. Yeah, all the
the
Celsius stuff, I don't even know what that could be. They're like burning up or something. I don't know.
Who knows?
Who even knows?
Yeah, if you practice Celsius, you're at a different temperature. You're just like, no, it's nice out. What are you talking about?
So the weather's been real bad, but my wife and I have still made an effort to leave the house. Mm-hmm. We went bowling yesterday with our patron Justin.
Oh, cool.
He took us out bowling, and it was a lot of fun.
You know, Skylar mentioned wanting to go bowling recently.
Yeah.
Huh.
Gosh, well, maybe you should have gone, Jeff.
I should have. Dang it.
I hear all the cool people are going bowling. And then we just went out and ran some errands today. But we definitely had to resist the urge to just stay in bed.
Right. It's really easy to just keep the heat on at home and just.
We got heated blankets, Jeff.
Oh.
It's the greatest thing in the world. It's so good.
See, I'm just my body temperature is so weird. Like I can't be in a warm situation for too long.
That's why you have the fan going while you're laying in your heated blankets.
No, I have a fan. Just all the electricity.
All the electricity.
So I have a fan going all the time,
Mm-hmm.
and like at any point in the year, just like because I like the white noise.
Yeah.
And and then like the air movement, and then it keeps me cool because I tend to heat up, and like I hate cold weather because I get too hot.
Oh, okay.
Because in cold weather you have to bundle up, otherwise you freeze outside.
Yeah.
But then because it's cold out, everybody's got their heat jacked up all the way.
Sure,
so I've got layers on, and I'm going inside, and so it's like I'm warm wherever I go. Plus I like the way my body temperature works. Like there's a story that my dad tells of when he and I went to a football game, and it was like in winter time, and like basically like it was really cold out. It was like getting close to like halftime, and my dad was like, okay, this is getting too cold. We're just gonna leave at halftime. Let me just watch the rest of this inning or whatever. And then I remember.
And for the record, because we were talking about our listeners who may be using the devil's temperature. Jeff is referring to American football, which people across the pond refer to as eggy runny ball, I think is what they call it.
And I don't think it's innings, it's quarters. Anyway,
something.
So we're waiting for halftime, and then we were gonna go. But like, so we were sort of like standing up and making our way out of the stadium. But like my dad was like stopping to watch each play as we were going. So like we got towards like. There's basically the big hallways that like lead in. I forget what they're called, but they're
Skittles. Let's just call them Skittles.
Skittles. So he kind of like, he's like, okay, there's one more play going here. Just stand off to the side here while I watch it, and then we'll get out of here. And I'm fine. Like it's cold.
Yeah.
I'm bundled up. I'm fine. Like I'm definitely doing all right. But I'm like, because I'm all bundled up, I'm actually kind of like hot and sweaty, and like my face is red because I'm hot and sweaty. And like I can't remember how old I was, but I was fairly young. And like one of the ushers or something in the stands like grabs my dad and is like, you need to get him out of here. He's gonna die of hypothermia if you keep him out of here. Like my dad looks at me and he's like, he's not freezing, he's hot, he's sweating, like he's all bundled up. Like that's just how I am. Like I get warm really easily.
Have you ever thought, Jeff, that maybe you're suffering from frostbite? because I'm pretty sure when you, or maybe it is hypothermia, you start feeling really hot. And so that's why people like, when people freeze to death, you find them and they've like taken off all their clothes because they got really hot.
Right, yeah. No, I mean, but that is not it.
No, I think you might just be suffering from perpetual
hypothermia.
Hypothermia, exactly.
I mean, like it is just like an imbalance in my body temperature, regular whatever regulates your body temperature or something like that. It's never been a huge issue or anything. I just get warm and a little sweaty more often than people would want to be.
Well, there you go. If you're ever standing in a skittle watching Eggy Runny Ball and you got to the third, eighth or whatever, you're gonna have a hard time.
Yeah, and that's why I don't play sports.
There you go. So enough of that. Do you want to go ahead and get into this episode?
Sure.
Okay. So speaking of Eggy Runny Ball,
okay,
you're standing there. The Eggy Runny Ball is like, it's being held up by one of the other landmines. They're holding the ball up, and you have to run up and you have to go kick it. You have to kick it between the two toothpicks.
Oh, right.
And the whole game, the whole set is running is depending on you, Jeff. So you're weighing your options. You're trying to think of the best way to kick this Eggy Runny Ball, and you're looking over, and like the referee, he's got his eyes. He's like looking straight at you.
Oh.
You know he's waiting to see if you do something wrong.
Okay.
So I want you to roll a d20. I want you to see how well you're able to kick this, and if you roll too low, the ref might call you on something.
Oh, crap.
Okay, so you do a very average kick, which is not interesting for the purposes of this story.
I love it. I love that when you, because anytime you have me roll as something, I always roll low, so you had a condition to where something would happen even if I rolled low, and I went right down the middle.
Yeah, okay.
I thread the needle.
So you run up, you kick the Eggy Runny Ball. It flies through the air. The crowd cheers. I don't know.
Do people...
Sure, it goes through the thing. The ref rings he rings the bell anyway.
The bell.
And then your team comes over and celebrates. I don't know.
Yeah.
I was really counting on something good or something bad happening.
Right.
So yeah. So okay. I guess that's that. So your team, they pick you up on their shoulders, and somebody comes over with a microphone and asks you, because you just won the game.
Oh, right, yeah.
Where are you going to go to celebrate?
I'm going to the Dragon's Hoard.
Woo! I guess I was going to have the referee end up being 30 feet tall with red scales. Anyway, so today's item.
No, I hit a perfectly average kick.
Perfectly average, exactly.
It's a field point.
Yeah. So today's item is called the Whistle of the Adjudicator, and it was submitted by Tristan R via email. This is an artifact.
Oh,
and maybe you'll see where I was going with that. A small, unremarkable silver whistle on a long rope. It may only be worn by lawful creatures. Chaotic creatures will actively try to dispose of the artifact. It is worn around the neck. When worn, it has the following effect. The wearer gains true sight at will, but when it's used, the wearer's field of vision narrows to 30 degrees, taking a severe penalty to passive spot checks. When the whistle is blown, all creatures in a 30-foot radius must save versus charisma or stop what they are doing and face the wearer. The wearer may point at one creature and then hold up their hand. If the creature has never been the target of the artifact before, a yellow glow will appear in the user's hand, and the creature will be banished as per the spell for 2 minutes.
Oh.
If the creature had previously been banished by the whistle, a red glow appears in the user's hand. The creature is imprisoned as per the imprisonment spell. Increasingly difficult saving throws versus charisma apply for both effects. While the whistle is worn, anyone who speaks to the wearer or sees the effect cast will become actively hostile and argumentative, but not violent without provocation. And that's basically the item. And there's just a little note. It is stats light because I don't have a handle on what reasonable saves would be.
Sure.
As you can guess, this was based off of the soccer referee.
Right. Yeah. So that's the red card, yellow card, and red card.
Exactly.
Soccer.
So yeah, I think. Heck. for being stats light, like it's still I think this is a very well fleshed out item.
I actually like this a lot. I love the connection to soccer and like penalties and stuff like that. But like I don't know, it's an interesting item.
I like the idea of magic items that are not explicitly just for adventuring. Magic items that like possibly have a practical use. Now, I don't necessarily mean you'd use this when playing sports or whatever, but like I think it'd be cool if there was some sort of a city where like the guards have these powerful artifacts that they use to keep order. And I think that's an interesting concept. And then what if somebody did get one of these from like, maybe they killed a guard or a guard was killed by some other thing and then they took one of it, or they became a guard and then whatever. And then they tried to find ways to use that to, aid them in adventuring. I just think this has a lot of potential, and I think it would be a fun item to have and a fun item to try and come up with ways to use.
Yeah, for sure.
I love that anybody who sees it becomes hostile.
Right.
It's really good. It's really good.
Dang ref.
Yep. So anyway, that was the Whistle of the Adjudicator. I just think it's a fun item. It's got some powerful effects. Definitely an artifact, I would say.
Yeah, maybe it's some curse effect where when you blow into it, it makes like your shirt all stripey.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I just think it's fun. So thank you very much, Tristan.
Yep.
Jeff, if anybody wanted to submit magic items for us to discuss for the Dragon's Hoard, or if they had questions for us to discuss, or stories for the funeral pyre, how would they get those to us?
They could send us an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com.
And then before we go any further, we have a giveaway today.
Oh.
So as always, we are giving away a copy of Chapel on the Cliffs from Goblinstone. So Chapel on the Cliffs is a great adventure. It's a low-level 5th edition adventure, and it's spooky, I guess.
Spooky.
It's a great adventure. And yeah, so we're giving away a copy every week for free. And so, Jeff, who is our winner this week?
This week, our winner is TB.
Whoa, winner. Gobble, gobble, gobble. Yes, congratulations, TB.
Yeah, we're only doing abbreviations now, so.
I guess. This week and last week, our winners were just abbreviations. So
yeah.
So you should be getting that, TB. You should be getting that pretty soon. Within the next week. If you haven't gotten it in a week from today, let us know. Check your spam folder, all that good stuff. And be sure to let Goblinstone know what you think, because they can always take your feedback and use it to make their future products better.
Cool.
So, Jeff, if somebody wanted to enter this drawing, if they wanted to be like TB and win this awesome adventure, how would they enter that drawing?
They can enter by sending us an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com with the subject line Chapel on the Cliffs.
Yes, it is that easy, and we are kind of perpetually running low on applicants. So
we're usually only like a handful at a time, so your odds are pretty good.
Yeah. So yes, just send us, even if you're like, oh, I don't know if I'll use that. Maybe you will. It's free.
Just keep it in your back pocket. You just need. Somebody just wants to play some D&D real quick or something like that. I got something I can use.
Or even like, I love to just read D&D adventures.
Sure, yeah.
Because I get ideas for stuff that I want to do in my own game.
Yeah, you could always just kind of like tweak things if you want to make it your own thing. You know, I mean,
yeah. So so that's a great adventure. Thank you very much, Goblinstone, for giving us copies of that to give out. And I also want to mention that today's episode is brought to you by our wonderful patrons. We have a Patreon at patreon.com/interpartyconflict, where if you pledge to give us a small amount of money per month, we will give you free bonus content. And then I guess it's not technically free. We'll give you bonus content. And then you'll help out the show and you'll get cool stuff in return. We've got outtakes. We've got fantasy fiction that I write. We've got a monthly bonus podcast for our $5 patrons. We have a monthly Roll20 game. I will write about your character for my monthly fiction. Lots of cool stuff on there. So go check that out. Patreon.com/interpartyconflict. See if anything appeals to you. Even $1 a month will go towards making the show better, and you'll get some cool stuff for it.
Yeah, it really helps us out, and we really like doing this show. So.
Oh my goodness, I love doing this show. It's great. And then I also want to direct everybody to Crit Academy, critacademy.com. They're a great podcast where Justin, Ian, and Brandon create new and reusable content for DMs and players alike. We've also got D&D Character Lab, where Garen and Dan make characters every week and then pit them against each other to debate whose is better. And also on the Crit Nation Fellowship, we have a new podcast, Brute Force and Ignorance. As of this recording, I've listened to almost all their episodes. I think I have like 5 episodes left because they have like 25 episodes or something like that. I've gotten through about 20 of them so far.
Yeah.
So they're pretty good. They're an actual play podcast.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And they started just a few months ago, and it's a lot of fun.
Nice.
It's a lot of fun. So yeah, go check them out. They're pretty cool.
And Gabe is really critical of actual plays. So
I am.
They must be at least pretty good.
I will admit it took me a few episodes to get into it, and I don't know if I would have stuck through it if I wasn't like these are part of our network. I want to really listen to these guys.
Yeah.
But I ended up really enjoying it, and I think that's made me realize. I think I might have been too critical of some other actual plays in the past because I think it takes me a while to get into an actual play.
Yeah.
So
I mean, and that happens with like things like primetime television shows. Like, like everyone says like, oh, don't just ignore the first season, that sort of thing. So like you got to get into it. They got to get into it, and you got to get into it. There's, you got to warm up to it.
Yeah. In any case, they're a lot of fun, so go check them out. Once again, they're called Brute Force and Ignorance. Well, enough with all the plugs. Do you want to go ahead and jump into some questions?
All right, we have a question from Noah Wizard on Discord. What is the 5-room dungeon, and how do you use it? 5-room dungeon refers to it's a structure of adventures.
Pretty much, yeah. I don't recall how much I've talked about it on the actual show.
I can't remember. Because I know you guys talked about it before. I've heard you and
I've talked with you about it. Definitely, I've talked with Noah Wizard about this.
Yeah,
he was asking it like formally for the show because I've mentioned it to him, but I guess I've never really gone into like a ton of detail about what it is and how I use it. So, So the 5-room dungeon it's a kind of a loose structure that you can use. It's like a framework for when you're building a dungeon. Here's how to make the dungeon interesting. I've used the 5-room dungeon many times. In fact, in our actual play that we recorded a few weeks ago, that I'm currently going through and editing, I very much used it for the dungeon at the end of that session. Yeah,
I'm just now thinking of the way it kind of went.
Absolutely 5-room dungeon in every way. So I'll explain what it is. But
well, you did a good job because I didn't notice it until you pointed it out.
Sure.
Yeah, that's really nice.
So the 5-room dungeon, like I'll get into the specifics of it, but I'll say that it's loose enough that you can use it, you can interpret it so many different ways.
Yeah,
and it's not even just something that you have to use for dungeons. In theory, you could use it for puzzles. You could use it for social encounters, like role-playing encounters. You can use it for just about anything, and it's just a way to make sure that it's not just like, okay, here's another room. Here's another room. Here's another room.
Could you use it in such a broad way to say that like you can structure your entire campaign off of it?
Possibly, but in a loose sense, yeah. But like I think with something that broad, you would probably end up having like, okay, well, the first quote unquote room of this dungeon is the first like story arc, and that itself is going to be made up of a bunch of smaller segments. You could, but I think at that point, it's a little bit harder to recognize and implement as.
Gotcha.
Anyway, okay. So what I'll get into what exactly the 5-room dungeon is. So I don't know who came up with the idea of. Oh, actually, maybe I do. I think it was made up by John 4. I don't know who John 4 is, but the article that I got it from.
What's a John 4?
For
making
5-room dungeons,
yeah.
Exactly. The article that I have pulled this from is credits John 4, whoever John 4 is or may have been. So there are 5 rooms to this 5-room dungeon, if that was not clear.
Sure.
Each room is not explicitly a room.
Right.
It could be a room. It could be just, here's a story beat. Here's a story beat. Here's 5 story beats.
Yeah.
Could also be that maybe each one is like several rooms. So like the first quote unquote room might actually be the first wing of the dungeon. And then once you get past that, then it's the next quote unquote room. Anyway.
Yeah.
So I guess let me briefly say what each of the 5 rooms is. The first room is an entrance with a guardian. After the entrance with a guardian, you have a puzzle or role-playing challenge. After that, a trick or setback, or I like to think of it as a red herring.
Okay.
And then after that, the big climax is number 4.
Yeah.
Then room number 5 is a reward, a revelation, or a twist. I think of it as a twist. On here, they just have a reward or revelation. So once again, an entrance with a guardian.
Okay.
Skill or role-playing challenge.
Mm-hmm.
A red herring or trick or setback.
Okay.
The big climax, and then the reward/twist. Those are the 5 rooms. So let me explain how you can use these 5 rooms to make an interesting dungeon. When I first started doing D&D at the library, I wanted to make sure that the very first session was like as classic of a D&D adventure as possible. However, I only had 1 hour to do so. So that's where I first really started learning about the 5-room dungeon. I looked it up and then I was like, okay, how can I make this work? So here's what I did for that session. I recorded that session, and someday I think I have a Patreon goal that I would put all of those episodes up for people to listen to.
Sure.
But we haven't gotten to that point. Anyway, the very first session at the library that I did, the players are hired to go rescue some miners that have been trapped in a mine, I think was what the plot hook was. When you guys get there, you arrive at a mine, and there's a big ogre standing outside. So pretty straightforward, an entrance with a guardian.
Right.
So you go up, you fight the guardian, you get past the guardian, that's room 1. So like especially because I was trying to get new people into D&D, I wanted to make sure that we started off with a short, simple encounter. So that's why I went straightforward.
Yeah.
The guardian is an ogre that is literally guarding the entrance.
Right.
So fight the ogre, kill the ogre, so on. After that,
Shrek, no.
he is an ogre. I was going to say he was a troll, but he's not a troll.
Yeah.
In Harry Potter, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, the troll looks like Shrek. Have you ever noticed that? Like body shape, his body is different.
Does.
He's wearing freaking Shrek's outfit.
He kind of, you know what? Yeah, you're probably.
When I first saw the movie, I was certain that was intentional.
At the very least, maybe. Yeah, I think the outfit, maybe. Yeah. But yeah.
Anyway. So after beating the ogre in the front, the players went inside. They go through this mine. They eventually get to a pit that they can't walk across. Like they have to get across this pit somehow. I didn't make it particularly deadly because I wanted the players to get to the other side. I just wanted them to have to do some skills.
Sure.
So in this case, like I think people made athletics checks to jump across. Once a couple people were across, I had people make like strength checks or some other kinds of checks to like throw a rope and then like pull people over. I think somebody accidentally fell into the pit. So I got to involve falling damage, which was like, a small enough amount of damage. It wasn't going to kill anybody, but it was enough to show people, the consequences of falling into a pit.
Right.
So I use that as, again, skill challenge just to get people across into the dungeon. After this point, room 3 is a trick or setback. So I really like the trick or setback or the red herring, because there's so much you can do with it.
Yeah.
So with that particular adventure a long time ago, after jumping across the pit, the players then got to a fork in the road. Now, a fork in the road in and of itself could be
a setback.
Could be the room 3 of the 5-room dungeon.
Yeah.
Because that could be an opportunity for the players to argue about where they're supposed to go. In the end, I had you guys make skill checks to see if you could hear some miners that were like calling out from down one of the ways. So I think at that point, your character, you were playing a ranger. I think you like set an alarm on the other path.
Put the alarm spell down or something.
And then you guys went down that one. I had you guys roll some more perception checks or something, and then realized that the voices that were calling out were actually on a loop. Like it was the same voices calling out every time in the exact same way. And because you noticed it, you didn't go headlong into a trap, which was like there was something rigged to collapse the mine. So that's the red herring, is like you think, okay, we're supposed to go this way, but I think let's go check this other thing instead. And then you get there and, oh no, it was something bad.
Right, yeah.
So then the big climax, so like you guys had a big battle with some wizard or something. He was like opening up a gate, I think, that like a dragon was about to climb through or fly through, whatever. You beat him, and then that encounter ends. And then the twist because I like the last one to be a twist rather than just a reward, because I always want it to like entice you to go to the next adventure.
Yeah.
So with the twist for this particular adventure, I had you guys get outside. The guy who hired you to go rescue these miners, which you then realized there were no miners because the miners were an illusion. You were actually there to kill some evil wizard or something. You get outside and the guy's like, "Did you kill the wizard?" And you're like, wait, hold on. What's going on? You sent us in there for miners and there were no miners. And he's like, "But did you kill the wizard?" And you're like, yeah, we killed the wizard. And he's like, "Awesome." And then he like turned to dust and blew away or whatever. Ooh. And, you know, you can still, like, I think I might have still given you guys money or something. I don't know. But the main thing was I wanted you guys to be like, "Whoa, what the heck was that? I want to come back to the next session so I can find out what is going on here."
Right, yeah.
And then I actually, spoiler, I never came back to that. I meant to have that guy show up again in a future library session, but I forgot to. So that literally ended up going nowhere. But
you know, you definitely, like, you could have had it go somewhere.
I could have.
You know.
So that's just one example of how that was a fairly straightforward 5-room dungeon.
Yeah.
Let me give you some examples of how a 5-room dungeon can be different. It could be that the entrance with Guardian doesn't necessarily have to be a fight. Could be a role-playing encounter.
Yeah.
Could be that there is a guy that you have to talk to get past.
It could be just like a riddle, like a Indiana Jones riddle, or like
could be a puzzle
or something like that.
Or it's trapped.
Yeah.
One example they give in this article is that it could be there's multiple entrances, but only one is correct. It could even be, if you're going on like the bigger scale, you have to go through one dungeon to get to the main dungeon.
Sure.
Like, you know that there's a giant door, like a giant golden door that uses this magical key, but in order to get to it, you have to go through inside another dungeon.
So like a dungeon itself is the Guardian.
Exactly. In Lord of the Rings, the door with the speak friend and enter, that is an example of a puzzle or a riddle that can be at the entrance / Guardian.
Right.
So after you get past that, the puzzle or role-playing challenge. This one there's a lot you can do with it. Basically anything that you can come up with that would require some skill checks. Could be another dungeon. Just maybe the first dungeon was more straightforward. This one is a lot more confusing. The players have to like make a map of it. They have to use more skills. They have to find keys and so on and so on. Like this one is more about thinking and less about, like, the first room is there to introduce the players to the dungeon. This is there to really make them think about the dungeon.
Sure. Like,
make them think about their characters, make them think about where they're going. It could be that there are NPCs that they have to negotiate their way past. Brief sidebar, I mentioned earlier, you can use the 5-room dungeon for like social encounters. It could be that for a social encounter, first you have to get through, you're trying to like talk to the king or whatever. You have to get through his like prime minister or something. You have to like negotiate with somebody to let you talk to the king.
Right.
Then once you get to the king, you have to find a way to like negotiate with him. So you have to make like diplomacy checks. You have to make knowledge checks to see if you can impress him with your knowledge of the politics and so on.
And then the third part, you could find out that he's not actually the king. He's the king's twin brother.
Could be. For something a little bit less less bizarre, I guess. It could be that for part 3, the trick or setback, it could be that you manage to convince the king to help you, but he's like, "Oh, except I already said that I would help with it. I've already sent all my troops over here."
Oh, sure.
And now someone needs to go and bring them back or something. And then the big climax is traveling out to go try and catch up with the rest of the army or whatever, or get a message to the person in charge, the general, to bring them back or whatever. There's the thing that I just love about the 5-room dungeon is that there are so many possibilities for each and every one of these.
Yeah.
You can interpret any of them literally infinite number of ways.
Yeah. Like, you could basically interpret it in a way that each one of them is just a fight if you really just like combat,
Sure. But the trick or setback in social encounter sense, it could be like what I did, where there's a trap and the players almost fall into it, or there is like an illusion that they get set back on. It could be that they get in there and find out, "Oh, we don't have the key for this. We need to go back to town and get the key." or we need a magic item that lets us get through here. You could even have this part. So I mentioned the first room could be a dungeon that gets you to the actual dungeon. The second one could be you're exploring this big crazy dungeon with all these traps and stuff. This one could be you find out, oh, we don't have the artifact that opens the real golden door. We need to go on another adventure to go get it and then come back here. And then, anything that gets the players to backtrack, to look back on what they've already done in a way that gets them thinking about it more. It also is a good opportunity to put players in situations where their characters might not be best suited for it. Maybe the fighter has to solve a puzzle, or the wizard has to, wrestle a hog to the ground or something while somebody else reads a number off its stomach. I don't know. There's lots of fun things that you can do with that. Yeah. So the trick or setback is probably my favorite part of all this. Then after that, the big climax, a big battle. If you're on your way to, you're trying to stop the dragon from doing whatever. You're trying to stop the evil wizard from opening the portal. It's going to destroy the world. This is the big encounter. This is like the wizard's lair. You've gotten through both golden doors and now like you're at the ancient temple of time and you have to stop the planets from aligning or whatever, like the big thing the players came there for.
Right. Yeah.
That's what this is for. So like you want to make sure that this is a reward, that this feels appropriately epic for the lead up. You don't want to have, okay, the first room is an entire dungeon, and then there's another dungeon that's all skill based. Then we got to go to a third dungeon and come back with the key. You don't want to then get here and be like, okay, yeah, you attack the guy and now he's dead. Good job. You want this to be like the big climax.
Right. You want, because that like, oh, feeling is for the next step. Like
exactly.
Like you want the climax to be this big thing.
Right.
Like the twist comes after the
Yeah. So if you do want there to be a twist that you get there and the bad guy is not actually a big tough bad guy, have that be after whatever, like you want to have something big at this point.
Yeah.
You don't have to stick to this exactly.
Sure.
You can do it however you want, but like this is a tried and true method that as long as you reskin it, it has endless. There's like no way anybody's going to get. It would take so many times of going through this 5-room dungeon to make somebody get sick of it. Because like if somebody's getting sick of it, then you just didn't do a good enough job like reflavoring it. Because there's so much you can do with it. So big fight, whole bunch of bad guys, or like one gigantic bad guy, or maybe like a boss fight that's like a puzzle fight. You have to like, he's invincible until you activate this switch and then destroy this idol and do all these other things, and then finally you're able to kill him. So like it could be like a dungeon in and of itself. It could be a big puzzle. It could be, if it's like if it was with a social encounter, you've gotten to the king. Maybe like you find out the king, he doesn't actually call the shots, like the guy that's like whispering in his ear is calling the shots, and now you have to take on that guy and convince that guy that what he's doing is not in his best interest, whatever. Once you've done the big crazy climax, then you have the reward, the revelation, the twist.
Right. Could
be that they just get a reward. Awesome. You stopped the army from starting that war, or you stopped the bad guy from destroying the world with his death ray or whatever. Whatever it is they came here for, they did it. You could reward them and then have that be the end. Or you could have it be they finished the job, they did a great job, it's all over. Or is it?
Yeah. Well, because that's a reward. The reward of more game.
Exactly.
Like, like you get to the end of the game and there's more game. That's the best. You're like,
exactly.
When you beat Pokemon Gold and Silver, and they were like, no, but now you get to play Pokemon Red and Blue all over again.
It's one of the best moments in all of gaming, to be perfectly honest.
It was just like, oh, I can go back and do all that. Awesome.
If I'm not mistaken, I think in one of the Elder Scrolls games they did something similar.
Oh,
I think it was in Morrowind. You found out that like after you beat the game, you could go back to Daggerfall or something. So like you could, the entire previous game was in, I think it was in Morrowind.
Nice.
So yeah, I mean that, and then going into that other thing, it could then be its own 5-room dungeon. But that's for next time. Like you want to reward the players, and you want to entice them to want to keep playing.
Yeah.
That's really what this for. Could be that you find out the villain wasn't actually the villain. He was just a dude that like the villain dressed up in some robes or something and said, hey, wait here and like swish this staff around. And then if some people come in, yell at him or tell him to leave or something.
Right.
It could be that you find out, oh, the treasure's gone, or maybe the treasure is there, but there's a map for further treasure that they can follow for the next one. You can find out that, like they mentioned in this article, the captured princess, it's not that she was kidnapped. She ran away with this guy because they loved each other and they wanted to get married. So it doesn't have to be a bad twist. It can just be like, good job. You completed the quest, but here's something that's going to recontextualize what's happened. You know, maybe this could like, that isn't a bad thing. It's not bad that she ran away with the other guy, but you know, maybe she did. And then maybe now that's going to lead the campaign in a different direction because, you know, now the king has realized he's been wrong about being at war with this other country. It's not that they kidnapped the princess. It's that she ran away with you know, their son.
Yeah.
So, you know, lots and lots of different possibilities for that. Lots of different possibilities for all of these. I love the 5-room dungeon. It's got so much potential. Anytime I'm like, crap, I have to come up with a D&D game. I've got like 20 minutes. What do I do?
Right.
I'm like, okay, there's an entrance with a guardian, couple orcs. Okay. Once they get past the guardian, they have to make some skill checks. What are some skills I want them to use? They can make an arcana check and an athletics check. Okay. So that means there's like a magical trap. They have to be able to recognize the runes and then like jump over them or something.
Yeah.
You know, okay. Red herring. What are they in there for? They're going to retrieve a magical, amulet. Okay. They find the amulet, but it's like trapped behind a magical wall. They have to get a magic item or they have to cast a certain spell that gets them through it. They don't have that spell. So they have to go into this other room. They activate a switch that opens up another room they have to go into to go get it. Okay. Then the big encounter, they get the amulet, but oh no, the amulet has a demon trapped in it. Okay. The demon comes out. I'll use the stats for this monster. And then they fight the demon. Okay, cool. They kill it. But they realize that this wasn't the real amulet. The real amulet is, you know, trapped in this other tomb with a bigger demon or whatever, you know.
The princess was in another castle.
Exactly. So it's so easy. You just fill in the blanks and you've got a full dungeon. And I guarantee you, your players are going to be like, wow, that was a good dungeon.
Yeah.
Maybe not verbally, but like they'll feel that way.
Yeah.
Like, do you recall, Jeff, if you enjoyed the dungeon that you guys went through at the end of our actual play session?
Yeah, for sure.
And it was very fleshed out. I used I don't want to say really, I mean, should I say anything that happened in it?
You don't have to give away all the details.
Okay. But there was an entrance with some guardians. You guys had to fight some guys that were...
I was trying to remember who's the guardian. Oh, yeah, there were guards.
There's just a couple guards.
Yeah, there was some guards that we...
And then there was a skill challenge. You guys had to get down like a mine shaft.
Yeah.
And then there was a red herring.
Right.
You guys heard some voices calling for you.
That's right.
It was not the same scenario.
Right. No,
you just heard some voices, so you went...
Don't spoil it, but anyway. I like that one.
And then the big encounter, and then the twist at the end. I don't know if the twist was quite was as fully formed as everything else, but
I like
it was totally 5-room dungeon the whole time.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so I cannot speak highly enough of the 5-room dungeon. It's like
I'm already coming up with ideas in my head right now.
There you go.
Like it's like having like a skeleton to work with. I can build something really easily with that. Like, because like if you ever have just like a vague idea of what you want to do for a dungeon or for an adventure or something like that, you're like, I want it to be like this or have this, but you haven't put it pen to paper.
Yeah.
This is a really good way to start.
Absolutely.
Because I could be like, okay, like this idea I have, like it's like this thing fits really well for part 1, and this thing fits really well for part 3. Like, you know,
and you can like move them around a little bit. Sure. I have done that a couple times. Do it at your own risk. Like it's not. I think that the structure that it's in right now has been like, I don't know how rigorously it's been tested, but like this is a formula that feels really good.
Yeah.
So it might not feel quite as good if you switch it up, but hey, do it. It's at least a way to get you making adventures, and that's the important thing.
And like the few of the rooms are like it's like vague enough to where you can kind of like the Guardian could be a herring,
Sure.
Like it could be a misdirection, like the idea of like, okay, like, oh, we walked into a dungeon, oh, it's the wrong dungeon.
Yeah.
So that that's sort of like a red herring thing, but that's the Guardian itself is that you were confused by which dungeon to go into.
Sure.
It's like, oh shoot, we should have turned left at Albuquerque.
Right. So yeah, I was so happy to have the opportunity to really get into the 5-room dungeon on the show.
That's really cool.
I think I've mentioned it before, but I know I haven't gone in depth on it. It's just, It's so good. Anybody who has been like worried about their ability to come up with interesting dungeons, use a 5-room dungeon. It's so good.
Yeah.
If you weren't able to follow the 5 steps well enough to immediately start using them, I'll put the link in the show notes for the site that I was using for reference. So like you can look at it and then you can read what they have to say about it, and then just if you can just write down somewhere what the 5 rooms are: entrance with a Guardian, skill or role playing challenge, red herring or misdirection, big climax, reward or twist. Any of those, like if you just write those down. Put it somewhere that you'll know where it is. You can always refer back to it. It's such a good tool.
Yeah.
So use it. I think that'll do it for our regular questions for today. I kind of went in figuring I would spend a good amount of time just explaining that.
Yeah.
So after that, I think we're gonna dip over to our social media questions. So last week's social media question, Jeff, was: of all the dice used in tabletop gaming, which is your favorite? Do you recall what the answer was? Your answer was?
I think I said D12 because it's sort of like he's a bit of a loner.
Yeah.
And I just like the shape of it too.
Yeah, I think I also said the D12. We got a lot of responses for this one. I think a few people said D12. Sure. Some people read the question as like, which of your dice is your favorite? A specific one?
Right, that's
a good answer too. I
like if you have a very specific die that you just really like you have that that 1D20 that's just like got that extra little sheen to it, or like the way like you get like the 2-tone color ones, but like the way the colors just matched up just right.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, I'm gonna.
Did we get pictures?
We got. There's one on Facebook. I'll bring up. So I'll get to that one in a second. Hold on.
Okay.
So first off, Sean M says the D12. It's the loner of dice.
Right.
Sean said.
Yeah.
It needs some extra attention. Making a rolling table for randomization? Use D12 instead of a D10. Want to smack something really hard? D12. Feel like inventing a spell with ridiculous damage and making the addition unnecessarily complicated? Use D12s.
I think somebody brings up that Toll the Dead.
Yeah. Justin said that.
That's a cantrip that does a D12.
It's a good cantrip too. Yeah,
it's so good.
Justin, speaking of which, says my favorite die has to be the D4. I feel like a god rolling one of those great pyramids of Egypt. Is that weird? A little bit, Justin, but that's why we're here. And he said also it never rolls too far, escaping my grasp.
Right? Yeah, that's a good thing.
For better and for worse, because like sometimes I feel like I didn't roll that thing, I just dropped it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, well,
yeah,
it's not much random chance.
Sure. Dan W says D20 because I can float them in salted water to make sure they're random.
Oh my gosh!
In all the dice I've bought over the years, 2 are true random.
Oh my gosh!
One I use playing and one I use when I DM, so I know where my rolls are fair. When those rolls work with narrative, I smile and think, well, it was meant to be.
Now, I've watched plenty of videos where people like do that, where they like put it in salt water, stuff like that, and then like somebody in the comments will always like, hashtag do the math or whatever, where it's like it's such a small difference that it's really not you might as well just continue to consider it random,
right?
But I mean, we've talked about dice lore.
Like I personally, I don't worry about whether my dice are truly random or not, because I have so many dice and I'm constantly switching dice. And it's not like I remember, oh, this one always rolls really well, so I'm going to use that one. No, I just grab whichever ones, number 1, are nearby, and number 2 are colors that I like.
Yeah.
Like I will grab, I'll grab, a full set of like reddish dice, all from different sets, but I'll just grab reddish ones. Then I'll grab a whole set of greenish ones, and then a whole set of bluish ones. And then and then that's what I use. I don't use them because, oh, this one rolls really well. I'm constantly switching. So any any variance is going to be negligible and like practically random.
Yeah.
So anyway, I mean, I'm not trying to disparage Dan's way of doing it. I'm just saying, like, I personally don't get that deep into it.
Sure.
And then Scott N, this is what Jeff was laughing at. He says, D20, they make good waffles. And there's a picture of a waffle iron that creates D20 shaped waffles.
That's amazing.
So I'll put that in the show notes.
I want a D20 pizzelle maker.
Yeah. That'd be pretty good. I think that might be what that is actually. Maybe it's that instead of waffles.
Either way, it's delicious.
Yeah. Hal A says D12. I try to utilize it as much as I can. So again, good D12 there.
Mm-hmm.
Lath says, I love a good D20. I love the moments when it looks like it's about to hit the 20, but topples over and gets a 2. Plus, it's the one we use most in D&D.
Sure.
So, yeah. Brandon says, a fistful of D6s, like old school Warhammer or Shadowrun.
Sure.
Yeah. Sure. I have plenty of those because a long time ago, somebody brought over one of those things that's just like a case of D6s.
Yeah.
And left it in my house. And I guess I have a whole bunch of D6s now.
It's like somebody really likes rogues. It's like, no, it's it's a Warhammer, or, it's a wargaming thing.
Yeah. Joe H says, I quite like a D4. When you roll it, it doesn't roll around too much and gives you a result almost instantly. Doesn't tend to roll off the table either.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a plus.
Yeah, that's definitely a plus.
Yeah. Dave says, D8. It rolls well without rolling too much and is easy to describe to new players. The one that looks like a diamond or a plumb bob.
Plumb bob, right.
From The Sims. Over on Reddit, we got a couple of responses. Timmy Soup says, my Age of Sigmar orc dice for Warhammer. Wah! Haha, for D&D, I have a pretty big collection of Chessex Gemini sets. Love those, but can't wait for my Kraken Kickstarter sets to arrive.
Wait, so that noise you made was wog, and that is
Is that a Warhammer thing?
That's a Warhammer thing.
Okay.
A orc army is referred to as a wog.
Oh, okay. All right. Gizmo Trunks says, I have a clear D6 with a D6 inside. I've seen these before. I think either Chris used to have one or maybe Melissa did. But yeah, so it's like when you roll it, you get 2D6 because it's the big die lands on something and then the tiny one inside it rolls around too.
Okay, so it's free rolling. Okay.
Yeah, it's like a tiny one inside a bigger one.
I was picturing one of those like 4D boxes. You know what I mean?
I see what you're
those
saying.
4D cubes or whatever they're called.
Yeah, no, it's just it's a like a gelatinous cube, but with with a die on the inside. Anyway,
gotcha.
Gizmo Trunks also says, really fun. I also like the dice Fantasy Flight is using for their current Star Wars RPG. For anybody who did not listen to our Star Wars episode, it was a little over a year ago. We did an episode all about the Star Wars RPGs. The system is actually pretty interesting once you get into it and understand it. And then Lost Ranger 17 says, I have a metal D20 that weighs just over half a pound.
Whoa.
I only use it for major decisions, mostly for the solid thump it makes when you roll it. I remember when I first started playing with Chris and Melissa. Melissa had a pewter D20, and it put a dent in the dry erase board we were using as a mat at the time.
Goodness.
So it's heavy. Like I'm sure this one is a lot bigger than the one she had. Hers was just a regular D20 size, but it was heavy. It was a lot heavier than any of the other ones.
Chuck it at the table.
Yeah. Over on Twitter, Collins B says, the second set of dice I ever bought. I use these primarily for the Captain Connor Nephi Grayson campaign, which I believe we did a funeral pyre about, I think.
Which one's that?
Then
yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I know the name was mentioned. I think it was in a funeral pyre. And they became my lucky dice after we survived an encounter specifically designed to kill us because my champion fighter rolled 5 critical hits in a row.
Whoa.
On a 19 or a 20.
Sure.
But still, that's real good.
Yay.
And then Steve says, this is tough. I like my dice. I traded all those good ones from the library. I like the D12 because it reminds me of barbarian damage when I was Shadowhand Silverbones.
Oh, yeah.
From our Age of Worms campaign. The D8 because of the 3 intelligent magic items that healed me each for a D8.
Thwack.
There is exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Whenever he would heal himself, he had each of his items each had like a once per day healing, I think they could do.
Yeah.
And whenever he used them all at once, the sound effect the player would make was thwack.
Yeah.
As he rolled all the D8s. And then he said, and then I think that I like D20s because they are the backbone of the game and they have such variety. a 3 on a D12 kind of sucks, but isn't all that interesting. A 3 on a D20 means a really interesting fail.
Right.
So that's definitely a good response there. And then Ian DM says, it's got to be the D20. It's iconic and for better or ill has come to represent all tabletop RPGs and not just D&D.
Sure.
So I can understand that. Even ones that don't necessarily use a D20 still can credit a D20 as being important to them.
Yeah.
Then over on Discord, just got a few responses. Preston Penguin R says, my green game science dice, because they are really cool and the most expensive ones that I have.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you say green science dice?
That's what
I
he
want
said.
to know more.
I'll see if I can get some more
Is there
information.
a link, Gabe? Click it.
Oh, let me see if I'll click on the text. Oh, no. Nothing's happening,
Hold on,
Jeff.
I'm Googling it right now.
Okay. Now that makes me wonder, what are the most expensive dice that I own? I don't know.
Yeah, I just have a bunch of Chessex.
Yeah,
dice.
same here. And then Peace Joy Pancakes, she was asking if we meant like a specific one or just in general, which, I responded, it was left intentionally vague. So,
well, it's Peace Joy Pancakes, so she probably likes the waffle one.
Oh, there you go. There you go. So she said,
the one that can be breakfast.
Sure. But she said, if specific, I love my dice set that I got from my friends for my birthday last year for sentimental reasons. If more general, I think D20s are neat, D12s are okay too, D6 stack real nice, and D8s look pretty. No love lost on D4s, never met anybody who liked those, to be honest. Which I think I said that I like how they have such a small number pool. But, other than that, I mean, they're not my favorite or anything.
So I've noticed something. No one said a D10.
Well, so then she says she's not a fan of D10s or D100s. They just have an unpleasant shape.
Sure.
And I can definitely understand that. A long time ago, we had Tom Russell, who is a friend of ours that is a board game developer.
Yeah, Tom and Mary.
Yeah, I don't remember if this part of the interview got into the episode because I ended up cutting out some stuff. And he said he really doesn't like, his favorite was D8s. He really doesn't like D10s because they are not a real... they're not a real shape.
Sure.
They are like...
It's not... Yeah, they're...
Each side is an irregular polygon.
Right.
So they are not a regular polyhedron is the word I was looking
that's
for.
right. Yeah.
So anyway, so I definitely understand that. And then Peace Story Pancake said, I like those dice that have swirly colors, mostly blue, green, and red, but I don't really mind the color as long as the whole set is the same. How do people play with all different colors? That's like anarchy.
There are the sets that they were specific. There was the orange D20, it was the blue D8,
orange D20, a yellow D12, a green D10, blue D8, red D6, black D4.
Yeah.
My first ever full set of dice I got 4 of those sets.
Yeah.
And then
that was
because you needed 46 to make characters in 3rd edition.
That was like the TSR.
It was from the Wizards of the Coast store.
Right.
Because there was a Wizards of the Coast store near us. And yeah. So my first ever set of dice was I got 4 sets of those, and they were $1 for a set.
Yeah, you
cannot get an entire set of dice for $1.
No,
anymore.
you're spending at least $5, if not $10 to $15 on a set of dice.
So JL Sim says, I think metal dice look great, but I wouldn't want to roll one on my kitchen table.
Right? Yeah. Metal dice always look great, but I never want to I'm always just if they're just gonna be too heavy, they're gonna dent or something.
Yeah, I have a couple. I have 2 or 3 metal D6s, but they're not they're musket ball dice.
Yeah.
So I'm sure they were recreations, but they're supposed to be in the Civil War. They would take a musket ball and just hammer it so it was roughly a D6 shape. Yeah. And then they would take a nail and just nail the pips into it. So I have 2. I think it's 2 of those. They roll the same number every time, so they're not good dice at all. But I have them, and they're cool in my set.
Yeah.
A new person on Discord, Deborah Soar, says, I like my steampunk dice, or my favorite set. The gears on them just feel so right when I'm a GM. As for favorite die type, I like D6s because they're so readily available in household games that you can easily bring people into a spontaneous game that wouldn't necessarily join otherwise, such as family members. Huh. So it's easy to show someone a D6 and be like, yeah, this is a die. Here, roll it. There are games that use D6s, so I imagine it would possibly be easier to get somebody into one of those games.
Yeah.
going off of their familiarity with D6s rather than be like, oh, here's all these other dice shapes.
You don't want to like overload them with all the different dice.
Right. And I guess that was all of our responses for the question this week. So a good amount of responses. Thank you everybody who responded.
Yeah, everybody can relate to having a favorite die.
Yeah. And whenever we get a lot of responses, I'm always hesitant to include everybody because then I'm going to spend a lot of time reading it. But I think I was able to get through that quick enough. And also we had a couple new people as well. So I want to try to, get in new people as much as possible.
Right,
too.
yeah.
So anyway, so that was last week's social media discussion questions. This week's question was, your character receives a plot of land as a reward for finishing a quest. What do they do with it? I feel like I've asked a question like this in the past, not necessarily on the show, but just on social media.
Sure.
But I did a search through our subreddit and I didn't see it anywhere on there. So if I've asked this before, I apologize. But hey, give me the same answer. I won't remember it. So yeah, a bit more story based. Your character receives a plot of land. It's up to you to decide where that plot of land is and what sort of terrain it is. What does your character do with it?
I'm trying to think of which character.
Let's say Pip.
Pip?
Your character from our actual play.
Oh, okay. See, that's hard. I haven't spent a whole lot of time with Pip, so it's hard to say.
It's you're down to the wire. You got to answer. Come on. Casino. He'd build a casino.
I would not build a casino. Like a nature reserve sort of thing, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, he might just be like a nature reserve, and he might like keep around like creatures that he's hunted or something like that.
Okay, sure.
Like he hunts, but he doesn't necessarily kill.
Yeah.
His quarry. Mm-hmm. If he doesn't feel like he needs to.
Okay. I don't necessarily have a I don't know if I would really say that I have a character right now, but I feel like most of my characters would probably build like a hideout on it.
Yeah.
I think I might even try to build like an underground hideout more than an above ground hideout. I had a dream a long time ago. So I own a house. We bought our house. We've had it for about 2.5 years and we're a little over halfway done paying it off. And I had a dream once, right after we bought the house, I had a dream where we discovered a hatch in the basement that led to another basement. Uh-huh. And it was like the coolest thing in the world. I would love if I found out, we actually have even more space.
Right.
We already have a lot of space, but just being like, wow, there's a whole nother part to this basement. That's awesome.
Yeah. There, Dave's place.
Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness, the lower level of that house goes on and on and on.
But like the thing is like his deck, his back deck, that like really like big like multi-tiered like deck thing he's got.
Yeah.
Like we were trying to figure out like what's under there.
Mm-hmm.
What is under there? And like
treasure.
They were talking to the neighbors, and the neighbors were like, "There's not a hill there unless they like put like." Unless they filled it in or something like that. Yeah. So like trying to think, is there like a secret door or something that leads under there? And I don't know. It's weird.
When we bought our house in the basement, like next to the stairs, there's sort of just like a little wooden thing that juts out from the stairs. It's just kind of like a little counter, I guess, like that. You can't open it up. It looks like a box, but you can't open it.
Yeah, it's just kind of like a bench thing.
A little bench, yeah. There was a key sitting on it, like a little tiny brass key. To this day, we do not know what that key goes to. Probably nothing. It was probably just like somebody dropped it or something when they were cleaning stuff out of the house. But like, we're always like, someday we're gonna find where the millions are kept.
Right.
And this key is gonna open it up.
Yeah, you always see the things on Reddit where somebody finds a safe in their house.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Anyway. So for you listeners, your character receives a plot of land. What do they do with it? So that'll do it for all of our questions for today. But before we finish out, let's sit back. Let's take a deep breath. Jeff's taking a deep yawn. And let's think of those who came before us as we toss another log onto the funeral pyre. So today's funeral pyre story was submitted by Deborah Soar on Discord, and the story goes as follows. Well, my story begins in the 9 layers of hell. So that's a good That's always a good start to a story.
Right.
My party was going through in order to make a deal with Asmodeus. Being the healer of the party, my artificer cleric Akina succeeded in keeping her party alive, only to die and fall into the river Styx.
Ugh.
The story doesn't end here, however, as the DM later approached me privately with a dark deal.
Ooh.
My character was resurrected, but as a sentient undead. Alignment shifted to lawful evil, and the stipulation that, of course, healing spells on myself would instead harm me. Akina began muttering things about power, killing, and calling the rest of the party her minions, but the other players never figured out quite what was going on under her hood. During the last epic battle, she managed to keep her party alive once again, barely. Afterward, of course, the druid transformed out of bear shape just to heal her in appreciation. She instead fell over lifeless.
Oh, no.
So, because she was harmed by healing instead of healed by it, because she's undead, the druid healed her and killed her in the process.
Oh, no.
So there you go.
So you're looking a little hurt there, buddy. Why don't I give you a little bit of life there?
There you go.
Whoops.
So I guess let's raise a glass in memory of Akina, who got a pat on the back into the grave.
Okay.
Clink.
Clink.
All right. Well, that'll do it for today. To submit questions for us to discuss, items for the Dragon's Hoard, or stories for the Funeral Pyre, please email us at interpartyconflict@gmail.com. For show notes, links to media mentioned on the show, and running lists of questions and magic items, go to interpartyconflict.com. Join the discussion on social media. Find us on Facebook, facebook.com/interpartyconflict, on Reddit at r/interpartyconflict, on our Interparty Discord, or on Twitter at InPartyConflict for our weekly social media questions. Your answers might end up on the show. Find us on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, YouTube, anywhere you download podcasts. Please rate, review, subscribe, or just tell a friend. If you'd like to support the show, check out the rewards at patreon.com/interpartyconflict. There's a few different tiers, so anything you can spare, even $1 a month, would go towards making the show better, and you'll get bonus content for it. Jeff, tell us about FriendQuest.
FriendQuest is a YouTube channel where we play video games. We're currently playing Dark Souls 3.
Yeah, I saw that. That's really cool.
Yeah, we're having. I'm trying out sorcery. I've never done a straight caster.
Really?
Yeah, I've never.
Okay.
Yeah, I've dabbled a little bit in pyromancy, but
it's quite different.
Yeah.
Like my first couple times, like the first time I played through Dark Souls and then Dark Souls 2, I did exclusively sorcery, and then I went back and did it melee, and like completely different. I actually enjoyed melee a lot more because I was really getting right up in there, and I actually had to like learn the enemy's patterns and stuff a little bit better. Anyway. So speaking of video games, you can check out my side project, the Arcade Memories Podcast. If you'd like to submit your own childhood memories of going to the arcade, record them or write them to me at arcadememoriespodcast@gmail.com. Also, head over to bit.ly/interpartyconflict to take a short survey about our show, what you like, what you don't like, etc. And just for taking it, you'll get 2 free printable board games courtesy of Mary and Tom over at hollandspiel.com. Yeah, I mentioned Tom earlier. That is Tom of Mary and Tom. And our music is made by Boxcat Games from Nameless the Hackers RPG. So, Jeff, until next time,
Bruce Willis was dead the whole time?
spoilers!